getting back to what Paula was saying about one of the hurdles is that I told her, you cannot be worried about what other people say. You just have to get these things out. And that's the important thing.
What's up, everybody? It is Keefy from GhostCultMag.com, and I'm excited to be joined by Paula and Dave Lombardo to talk about their new album from their project, Venamoris. How are you all doing today?
Good,
well,
thank you.
Really good. Excited.
Me too. We're on the eve of the album dropping. This will come out at some point in the future, but I have followed this project from the beginning, and obviously it's very special to have the two of you together. It's a very unique and special thing. Dave is well known across all the genres of music for doing inventive and cool things, and I think this is just one more inventive and cool thing, in the quiver of your different arrows, so to speak.
Thank you.
From the very first single, I'm going to back it up for a second before we talk about To Cross or To Burn. From the very first single, The Gift, the Christmas EP, the first album, and really basically 2 quick years of music, you guys have put out a very prolific clip of new music. I love this new record, and I do think it's a whole level up from the first album.
Awesome. Yeah, we feel the same. Mm-hmm. We're getting better at what we're doing, and every song, every day that we come in here into the studio and work together, it's an experiment. And I enjoy it. It's what I do on my off time, when I'm not on tour, when I'm not working with Imperial Triumphant or, tracking for, any other band, here at home. When I'm not on tour, this is what I do. And it's our newfound hobby because it hasn't been longer than, 2.5 years that we discovered this. Well, actually it started during pandemic. And then, and here we are in 2025, 2 albums and a half, because I think we're planning on releasing, a holiday song every year. So that's a challenge because we have to write these songs during the summer, to have them released, in the winter.
Helping me with my segue as always, Dave. I absolutely had a later question about, please tell me there's more holiday music coming, because I absolutely loved it. Put it into my holiday mix for things, shared it with friends. I loved it so much. I love a lot of holiday music. I came up in a singing background, and we used to do Glee Club and Christmas carols and all the things. And I don't think there's enough new holiday music. You can only hear that Mariah Carey song so many times. She's wonderful, but there's just so many times you can hear that song and not want to explore it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Paula, and I want to talk to you, Paula, about your journey, because obviously people know Dave from his, vast body of work. But I always say there's 3 passports to be a singer's singer. One of them is Broadway, the second is Vegas, and the third is Nashville. Mm-hmm. And you have kind of crossed all 3 on your journey to get here. And, barring any trepidation to do this bold step of this project with your husband, I really love the evolution of your voice. And I'm going to drop a couple of references. I want to hear about your personal influences, because I have my takes. I hear a Cassandra Wilson jazz chanteuse. I hear an Amy Mann. I hear a lot of things across the palette of your voice. And I want to talk about what inspires you vocally, and where do you draw from for some of these things, as well as your own, magic.
Yeah. Well, honestly, my earliest female vocal influence is Ann Wilson. Absolutely adore her. I adore her to this day. She's just for me, the pinnacle of a vocalist. I just love her sound. I went from that to Olivia Newton-John. From Canada, there was, I think, a moment of Lee Aaron, that kind of thing. Yeah. And Alanis Morissette. Another big one, if you go into country music, would be Winona Judd. So those would be the women that sort of, and Annie Lennox too would be another one. So all those ladies would have shaped me before I turned 16. And then it was all solo work after that. I started working in Vegas at about 18, 19 years old. So then it was just trying to figure out my own voice, really.
Right on. Lovely Aaron, one of my favorite interviews ever, who also has Christmas albums.
Oh, cool.
And she's so great. And I think a real important figure, maybe an overlooked figure, especially the journey her career took as a young person. She's very open about kind of the music business and again, being also part of your Nashville time. You can appreciate what a young woman goes through in the business. But yeah, fantastic stuff. Thank you for sharing. And I really do feel like To Cross Is to Burn is like another step up. I think the first record and the first EP and the singles were really sweet, but I really feel like this is like the style now. I think like there's a real great range of types of songs. And I don't know if the both of you want to answer about that. Like, I think there's some very jazzy stuff. There's some gothic rock. It's not too up tempo. I think it suits the voice very well. Was there sort of an agenda coming into this second record in terms of the song style, or just let it fly and see what comes out of you?
Yeah, dude.
Well, I always tell her just write from the heart. Whenever you have an idea, whenever you feel inspired, there's no harm in just laying down your idea, and then we revisit and then we determine whether it's worthy for the record or not. She wrote, man, I'm gonna have to say like 20 songs while I was on tour with Testament in 2022. We were figuring out, the layout of the album cover, and she was sending me songs. I mean, layout of the album cover on the first record, and she was, sending me songs in the middle of the night. It's like, hey, I just wrote this. And I'm like, listen, it's like, oh man, we're gonna have another album out probably before the first album, or have it recorded and ready. So she, put together all this music, and then we went into it and then started figuring out, okay, we have now found our niche, our style, our sound. Let's now, pull away the songs that really don't, fit. We, there are songs that are very how would you call them, like just like yeah, well, I mean, they're just very different from what you hear.
They're more like the first album.
Yeah, they're more like the first album, a little more, maybe mainstream. I don't know.
Yeah, just maybe more innocent, maybe more commercial in some ways, more like it could go country pop, a lot of harmony work and that sort of thing. So they could have lent themselves probably to guitar vocals. So those ones we got rid of and decided to make a more cohesive album.
Yeah, we had 10 songs, and then she said, we have to remove these 3. They just don't fit. And then she went to the drawing board and started writing another 3, and we added them because the album was taking a more like very dark and moody sound, and the other songs were a little up tempo. They were just they weren't fitting the direction of the album. So she rewrote, some pieces and or wrote some new pieces, and then we added them at the end.
And I think the difference in tone as well is the first album was written during pandemic. Dave was home. He was helping me come back to music. I had left for, I would say, about 10 years. I just didn't sing a note, didn't want anything to do with it. And coming back to it, I had like a flood of songs that came out. We really didn't know what was going on. He was just encouraging me to do it. And after there was so many, he's like, that's it. We're putting an album together. It's going out on Bandcamp. And that's it. We're just going to make this happen. And so then, fast forward to the second album. That's now after pandemic. And I was always used to Dave being on tour and that sort of thing. But, pandemic sort of shifted that a little bit for me. So when he left, it wasn't like he went out for a week. He was gone for, I think, 6 weeks was that first tour. And so I had a lot of time on my hands, and my brain was not in the best place, got very dark. And so throughout the night, I was writing these songs when I couldn't sleep. And so I think that that's where the darker tone may come from.
Hey, fair enough. And thank you for unpacking all that. We all, listen, like right now, life is crazy. And the last 4 or 5 years or 6 years of life has been just, I fully understand anybody who cannot work and not be prolific and not find their muse at this time, because it's just so hard. But at the same time, I do appreciate that shout out to Monica and Speakeasy PR and Ipecac for giving us the lyrics. So I had the benefit of listening to the record a few times, going back through the catalog like I like to do when I nerd out before an interview, and I got to read along with the lyrics. And the lyrics there's a lot of vulnerability there, so respect. And it's not easy to talk openly about your feelings and put them in the song and have it be very meaningful to you. And I do feel like there's an interesting juxtaposition between these songs. There's some of them are a little airy, like jazzy and airy, and then the subject matter is hard, tough. And you know, I appreciate that you're able to find that comfort space to do it, because it's kind of scary. I got to be honest. I've done it. It's really tough.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's probably one of the, you know, I have a lot of hurdles to go through before an album ever comes out, definitely. And I think that just before a song is released, it hits me like, oh man, I forgot like what this song meant or what it meant to me in that moment, or, you know, maybe how it hit me when I first wrote the words down and in those vulnerable moments. So it's a little scary to put it out there, but I also think, you know, there's so many people feel these kind of feelings. So hopefully, you know, it just gives people a place to be understood in a way, you know?
Right on. And also just one last point about the singing, which again, I'm such a fan of. I think a lot of people can deliver a lyric and a lot of people can sing a line, but to deliver a lyric and punctuate a line emotionally with phrasing is a technique. It takes time. So again, I feel like your collective experience across your career, up even the break and then coming back, I think that's something you have not. If you had it before, you definitely didn't lose it. And if you've got it now, it's like a razor blade, because like it's very cutting as a listener. And again, like I'm a student of songs and singing and things like that. So I care deeply about, you know, what comes out of the speakers and into the headphones. So yeah. I really appreciate you for that.
Thank you so much.
That's awesome. That really makes me happy, because, you know, that was one of the major hurdles for her, you know, coming back to music, and me trying to convince her to get her back into singing was, what are people going to say? I said, who cares? It doesn't matter. You know, that's why we were in the beginning, we just wanted to put it out on Bandcamp. It was something just for ourselves, you know, family, you know, whoever we wanted to share it with. But then I played it to Justin Pearson at 31G. And he said, Dave, this is the most punk thing you've ever done. And I said, right. And he says, I'll put it out. You got to give it a home. This is great. And then, you know, I presented it to Patton initially, and he said, Dave, I don't know what to do with this, man. You know, but then, you know, when JP took it on, and then the opportunity to take on the second record, the product manager for Ipecac, he heard it, and he was surprised that I didn't send it to Patton. The second album, I didn't send it to Patton or Greg. And when I mentioned that to him, he said, what? You have to send it to them, because we were shopping other labels. And so when I sent it to Patton and Greg, they said, you know what, let's put this out. We love it. And it's cool. So here we are, you know, on our second record and on Ipecac. And, you know, it's, you know, getting back to what Paula was saying about, you know, or what I was saying, that one of the hurdles is that I told her, you know, you cannot be worried about what other people say. You just have to get these things out. And that's the important thing.
I thank you again. Another segue. I was going to say, yeah, you know, Dave is so professional at this. He should also consider journalism if he had any time to not sleep or eat. Yeah, believe me, we have yeah.
I'm also
we're lizard brained. We can't really do anything without having it spoon fed to us, to be honest with you. I did want to say, Ipecac to me actually made sense, because I feel like Patton's work crosses so many things, and the label is celebrating the anniversary this year. Shout out to them for a phenomenal, you know, couple of years of celebrations and celebratory reissues. And, you know, your solo record is through Ipecac and Bungle and other things. And, I don't know. I think about the Lovage record, which I'm a huge fan of, and I got the reissue of a couple of years ago.
Great record.
Unbelievable record. I think, you know, different things with Bungle in the past, before the heavy metal resurgence, and I think like Evidence by Faith No More. You know, Patton's a lover of song, and I often say, like, a good song will work in any genre. You just take the bones of the song, and if you wanted to have a more country song, you throw some pedal steel on it with a little twang and a B-bender. If you want to have a punk song, hit the tempo up 100 beats. You know, it doesn't matter. To me, a good song's a good song. So I think, like, it actually made sense to me that you would bring it to Ipecac, but I'm not surprised. I think there could have been major label interest for sure if you wanted to go that route, but I know that comes with other difficulties.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes. That's one thing that we really like about staying independent, is we can go at Paula's pace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not demanding, from her, different things, and, that'll make her feel uncomfortable. This is all new to her, and, we're here just at your pace, so.
Absolutely. It's so hard to find that comfortable space. The music business, as I often say, it's not the music friendship, but in this case it is, but often not. And let's talk for a second about the guest appearances on this record. There were some not surprising ones. There were some absolute shockers. Some of them are my favorites. Obviously, Trevor, who I've met and chatted with and seen live, play upright bass. He's a wizard. That first track is a beautiful table setter to the whole rest of the album. It almost feels like it's coming through an old Victrola or AM radio.
Yeah.
And so good. And then I know everybody's going to talk about the Scorpions cover with Gary Holt, right? Oh, man. I mean, I grew up with Scorpions. Animal Magnetism is a great album. But what a real inventive take on it. And, Gary's going to Gary. I've been lucky enough to live out here near them and see him often in the crowd and also on stage. And, just like a quintessential Gary Holt solo. He just let it rip, right?
Yes, he did. Yeah, it was a late night idea, and Paula was confused. She said, "No, I'm not going to do this."
This doesn't work for my voice.
No, I said, "Don't worry, just do it this way." And then next thing you know, she's downstairs on the piano and picking it out, and I run out of the shower. Are you playing Animal Magnetism? And I quickly go into the studio, set up a session, and she lays down the initial idea or her interpretation, and then we started building from there. And then, of course, I had to get Gary. He loves Rudolf Schenker, and the Scorpions, obviously, and it was a no-brainer, and he agreed. He loved it. It was a great experience.
Right on. If you're looking for another Scorpion song to cover, may I suggest Still Loving You? Anywho, would lend itself beautifully to this style. Just throwing that out there.
It's a beautiful song.
Always my favorite beside the Rockers. And then, of course, Skoll. Everybody knows Alan Skolnick. I've been lucky enough to see him in some of his jazz gigs with his trio. He came in and put like a beautiful exclamation point down on his track. But I want to shout out probably the most surprising guest of all, Ra Diaz. So Ra, who I know forever from being in Suicidal Tendencies and also with Korn now, but he's an extreme, and he played with Billy Biohazard. He's extremely accomplished as a bass player. People see him on stage, he's jumping around like crazy and just slamming, and I know you go back with him, Dave, but like he is so well-rounded as a musician, and he has such artistry to his playing. He can play anything, and I think this is the proof. I hope people really give him his flowers for this.
Yes, he was definitely, he's always my, one of my first choices, when we think about, musicians coming in and, adding their talent. Yeah, we started Suicidal at the same time, and we had to leave Suicidal around the same time. And we've obviously kept in contact, and he is very talented and is able to play basically anything. And he was also, let me add that he was on the first record as well. And, he did a phenomenal job. He's just, he's great. He's an all-around great player and good friend.
Yeah, he's a great dude. I got to meet him back in the Suicidal days, and he's been very kind to us and sharing our work of his shows. And then speaking of talents, not so much a hidden talent, but maybe a publicity flex. Dave, like apparently you have all over this beside the drums and composing, but a guitar, heavily on guitar here. There's a lot of just beautiful guitar work across the album. And apparently I didn't know that you were a collector of guitars as well.
Yes. Well, yes.
Oh, yes. Yes, he is.
Well, I mean, yeah, that would have been, that would have come to other people's, or, to the public's attention in the past, but there were never any guitars, backstage that are left-handed, where anybody would have, said, "Oh, hey, Lombardo plays," And with this project, I'm able to pick out what she writes and, add a little more texture, add a little, some leads and stuff like that. I'm not very good, but I could get around. So yeah.
You do a great job.
Yeah.
Dangerous enough. And as you know, the reward for hard and good work is more work. Usually somewhere else, like in the corporate world, you get a promotion, you go to a new job. So that's what happens to the best of the best. Just a last couple of questions. You guys have been amazing. Is there a chance that this could be a live performance again in the future? Is that something on the table, or maybe not in the cards?
We're not sure yet. That's something that I haven't quite wrapped my head around yet. But also, we don't want to go out and perform this with tracks. Just Dave and I and tracks. I think it's hard because it's a new project. You don't want to just say, well, we need all of this and demand so many things because it's very expensive. But in the same breath, if we ever could do it, we would want very specific instruments on stage, and so it would just be very expensive to pull it off. And so maybe one day, but I don't think so at this time.
Yeah,
no.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
I really do. I mean, I have it all pictured in my mind. We got the 2 cello players, a viola, a violin, a bass guitar, an electric guitar, piano, and synthesizer, vocals, drums.
It's full stage.
Full stage. That's basically what it's going to take. So hopefully, who knows? Maybe in the future it will. But right now, like Paula says, we're going to have to, just focus on the music and just keep putting music out. I think that's the most important thing right now.
Wonderful. We're here for more of it. Please, and thank you. Just the last thing, obviously, beside the Imperial Triumphant album coming out, anything else you can share that's on the horizon? I know a lot of people are asking me about Bungle and if anything else is going to come. I was fortunate enough to see the band 3-4 times in the last few years, and it was magical. So if there's anything you can share or can't share, let me know.
Well, there's I have 2 shows with the Misfits coming up at Coachella. Let's see, and some things possibly coming up in the future, but nothing really I could talk about. Right now I'm just focusing on working with Paula. We have like 3 songs that we're working on now. We need to wrap up some vocals. I just got a nice microphone delivery from Neumann Mics, and we're going to try those out. And I think I'm going to be getting together with Dead Cross, just the guitar player and the bass player, Justin and Mike. We're going to get together and we're just going to jam, just brush up on the chops, and who knows, maybe there'll be something. But
you also just laid down Empire State Bastard.
Oh yeah, I have an album with Empire State Bastard. I don't know when that's going to see the light of day because Simon Neil is currently now working with Biffy Clyro, so he's doing a little balancing act there. And who knows? Who knows what else happens? In the future, there's always surprises.
Right on. I got to interview those guys, by the way, right after the Riot Fest rain out. And they were kind enough to reschedule with me from in person to over Zoom. And we talked a lot about you and how thrilled they were to work with you. Funny enough, here's the last real funny thing. So, of course, I knew about the Misfit shows. Misfits are the only band on the Coachella poster with their own logo. And I don't know if that's from Glenn or just Misfits in general, but it's so baller. Like where rock doesn't get on the Grammys, the Rock Hall of Fame is questionable sometimes. If Soundgarden doesn't get in, I'm going to kill somebody this time. But anyway, like Misfits have the only band, a huge international billion streams on Spotify, and Misfits is the only band with their actual logo on the poster. I was like,
that's right.
That's so punk.
So fucking punk, man. That's the whole, like I said, you can't fuck with Glenn, man. Like the guy is just like, he literally is Glenn Corleone, maybe. I don't know if he would like that analogy, but to me,
that's great.
I just saw the Zeppelin documentary. So like Peter Grant, Glenn, I don't know.
Yeah. Legend, man. He's amazing to work with.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to work with that guy.
Right on. Yeah, everybody. I mean, I talked to Johnny, who's done stuff with Glenn, Johnny Kelly. I know Steve Zing, like Tommy Victor. Everybody raves about Glenn. So yeah, we're whatever he wants to share, I'll take whatever's left. If I know he doesn't.
But don't get on his bad side.
No. I'm good. I'm real good.
Yeah.
Paula and Dave Lombardo, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this with me and our listeners and watchers. And best of luck on Venamoris to Cross or to Burn coming out. It'll be out already by the time you see this, but out February 28th on the wonderful and amazing Ipecac recordings. Thanks for hanging with Ghost Skull. I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you very much, man.
Thanks
it's a
so
pleasure,
much.
and I'm happy that you're enjoying the record and her voice. All right, man.
Thank you.
Take care.